History isn't just a record of the past, it's a puzzle filled with secrets, questions, and truths buried on purpose. Welcome to the channel, where we go beyond the surface, challenge the official stories, and uncover the mysteries the world was never supposed to remember. If you love lost civilizations, hidden timelines, ancient technology, and shocking historical evidence, you're exactly where you need to be. Before we begin, make sure to like, share, and subscribe so you never miss a discovery that could change what we think we know about history. And watch till the end, because the final reveal is always what ties the entire mystery together. The truth doesn't show up in the first minute, it shows up in the last one. Now, let's get into the video. The discovery of the Forbidden Tablets. You are about to embark on a journey into a history deliberately hidden from humanity. A history older than the oldest civilizations we know, a history written on clay, stone, and metal by beings who walked the earth long before recorded time. These are the forbidden tables of the Anunnaki, records that reveal truths about our origins, our purpose, and a past that some have fought tirelessly to erase. It begins in the deserts of Mesopotamia, in the lands once cradled by the Tigris and Euphrates. Archaeologists and explorers in the early 19th century stumbled upon ruins and fragments of what would become the most controversial finds in the study of ancient civilizations. Among these ruins were clay tablets, etched with cuneiform symbols, some of them thousands of years old. At first, scholars dismissed many as mundane, records of trade, taxes, and laws. But a select few tablets were different. Their markings suggested knowledge of beings not merely human, but godlike in stature, intellect, and power. You may be wondering, why were these tablets forbidden? Why have they been hidden from public awareness? The answer lies not in accident but in deliberate suppression. Throughout history, every civilization that uncovered fragments of this knowledge either buried it, destroyed it, or repurposed it for religious and political narratives that concealed the truth. The Anunnaki, according to the Forbidden Tables, were not myth, they were visitors from beyond, rulers who shaped humanity according to their will. And the tablets? They were the manual of that rule. One of the earliest documented discoveries came from the ruins of Nippur, an ancient city considered sacred in Sumerian times. Scholars found tablets referencing a council of divine beings, the Anunnaki, who decided the fates of cities and kings. These tablets described the arrival of the Anunnaki from a distant planet, a place beyond our solar system known in the texts as Nibiru. According to the inscriptions, the Anunnaki came to Earth seeking gold, a metal that could sustain their homeworld's atmosphere. The story recorded on these tablets is astonishing in its detail. It describes vast mines in Africa where the Anunnaki forced early humans to labor. But the narrative goes further, it speaks of genetic experiments of humans engineered to serve as laborers, blending divine DNA with the genetic material of early Homo sapiens. You are hearing the echoes of what some consider the most audacious claim in human history, that we are, in part, the creation of extraterrestrial architects. Yet, these revelations are only the surface. The tablets do not merely chronicle labor or genetics, they detail a complex social hierarchy among the Anunnaki, a ruling class that controlled the flow of knowledge and technology. Kings and priests on Earth were intermediaries of this higher authority. This hierarchy, according to the texts, has survived in secrecy, influencing human affairs even after the supposed departure of the Anunnaki from our world. In 1849, in what is now modern-day Iraq, the archaeologist Henry Rawlinson copied a set of inscriptions from the Behistun rock. Among them were references to the gods who descended from heaven and the secret decrees of kingship given to men. The full significance of these passages was not understood at the time. Modern researchers would later recognize the names Enki, Enlil, and other Anunnaki as central figures in the control and instruction of early human civilizations. It was during the 20th century, with the discovery of the library of Ashurbanipal in Nineveh, that the magnitude of the Anunnaki narrative began to emerge. Thousands of tablets were recovered, but some were deliberately kept from publication. When fragments were finally translated, they revealed disturbing accounts of wars among the gods, of rebellions by certain Anunnaki factions, and of a deliberate manipulation of human history. You are seeing, in these pages, a story humanity was never meant to remember. But the Forbidden Tables are not uniform. Different tablets offer different accounts. In some, the Anunnaki are benevolent, guiding humanity with wisdom and technology. In others, they are authoritarian, enforcing labor and obedience. Why these contradictions exist may never be fully understood. Some scholars argue they reflect internal politics among the Anunnaki themselves, while others claim they represent the selective recording of knowledge by human scribes, who may have been coerced or inspired by these beings. What is undeniable is the precision of the knowledge preserved in the tablets. They describe astronomical events with astonishing accuracy, mapping planetary movements and cycles that could not have been known by humans at the time. Many researchers point to the text's references to Nibiru, describing its long orbital period and influence on Earth, as evidence that the Anunnaki possessed advanced astronomical understanding, knowledge that was systematically hidden from humanity for millennia. You might ask, how did such knowledge disappear? One theory involves the Great Flood, a cataclysmic event referenced in multiple Sumerian tablets. According to the forbidden records, the flood was not merely natural but orchestrated, at least in part, to erase human knowledge and reset civilizations. Entire archives of Anunnaki teachings, royal decrees, and technological knowledge were lost beneath waters that swept across continents. Only fragments survived, buried in ruins or encoded in myths, waiting to be rediscovered. Even more astonishing, some tablets hint at bloodlines and inheritance of power. Kingship was not merely political but genetic. The Anunnaki supposedly interbred with humans, creating lineages that carried their DNA. This concept of divine bloodlines appears repeatedly in myths across the globe, from Egypt to India to Mesoamerica. You are witnessing a pattern suggesting that human royalty and leadership may have origins in a time when gods walked among men. What is undeniable is the precision of the knowledge preserved in the tablets. They describe astronomical events with astonishing accuracy, mapping planetary movements and cycles that could not have been known by humans at the time. Many researchers point to the text's references to Nibiru, describing its long orbital period and influence on Earth, as evidence that the Anunnaki possessed advanced astronomical understanding, knowledge that was systematically hidden from humanity for millennia. You might ask, how did such knowledge disappear? One theory involves the Great Flood, a cataclysmic event referenced in multiple Sumerian tablets. According to the forbidden records, the flood was not merely natural but orchestrated, at least in part, to erase human knowledge and reset civilizations. Entire archives of Anunnaki teachings, royal decrees, and technological knowledge were lost beneath waters that swept across continents. Only fragments survived, buried in ruins or encoded in myths, waiting to be rediscovered. Even more astonishing, some tablets hint at bloodlines and inheritance of power. Kingship was not merely political but genetic. The Anunnaki supposedly interbred with humans, creating lineages that carried their DNA. This concept of divine bloodlines appears repeatedly in myths across the globe, from Egypt to India to Mesoamerica. You are witnessing a pattern suggesting that human royalty and leadership may have origins in a time when gods walked among men. The story of the Forbidden Tables also intersects with hidden knowledge of technology. Some tablets describe machines, tools, and mechanisms that predate known human inventions by thousands of years. Devices capable of manipulating energy, controlling water, and even, some researchers claim, harnessing forces beyond current human comprehension. Whether these descriptions were literal or symbolic remains debated, but their recurrence across independent texts implies a consistent tradition that was consciously suppressed over millennia. And then there are the warnings. Certain tablets conclude with cautionary statements, "Do not reveal the secrets of the Anunnaki, lest the balance of man be disrupted." Such warnings may explain why so many fragments were destroyed, lost, or mistranslated. Human civilizations, in their desire for control, may have actively silenced the knowledge, codifying it instead into myths, parables, and religious rituals, stripping it of its original context. By the mid-20th century, the study of these tablets had become a field fraught with controversy. Mainstream archaeologists often dismissed claims of extraterrestrial involvement as pseudoscience, while alternative researchers pursued the trail with painstaking dedication. Satellite imagery, ground-penetrating radar, and modern translation techniques have since confirmed the existence of previously unknown ruins, mining operations, and structures referenced in the tablets, proof that, at the very least, these ancient records contained elements of truth about Earth's earliest civilizations. So now, as you watch this documentary, understand the stakes. The Forbidden Tables are more than just clay and inscriptions, they are keys to a lost history, a history deliberately obscured by those who sought to maintain control. To read them is to peer into a past that challenges everything you thought you knew about humanity, its origins, and its destiny. And yet, even today, the search continues. Scholars, adventurers, and truth-seekers probe deserts, caves, and ancient libraries, hoping to uncover the remaining tablets before they vanish forever. For every fragment recovered, new questions arise. Why were these secrets hidden? Who benefits from humanity remaining ignorant? And most pressing of all, what would it mean if the full story were finally revealed? In the next part of this journey, you will meet the Anunnaki themselves, or at least the beings described in the tablets as rulers, engineers, and gods. You will explore their motives, their technology, and the profound influence they exerted on the earliest human societies. And you will begin to understand why history, as we know it, may be only a fraction of what actually transpired. The journey into forbidden knowledge has begun. The tablets speak, and their secrets are waiting to be heard. Who the Anunnaki really were. You are about to step even deeper into a story that most of humanity has never been told. The forbidden tablets you learned about in Part 1 are more than artifacts, they are windows into the lives and minds of beings whose presence shaped the destiny of the human race. They are called the Anunnaki, and to understand them is to understand the forces that shaped history itself. The name Anunnaki comes from the Sumerian language, roughly translating to those who from heaven came to earth. But these were not simply gods in the way your textbooks describe them. According to the tablets, the Anunnaki were physical, intelligent, and technologically advanced beings. They were masters of metallurgy, astronomy, and genetics. They could manipulate life itself. And, most strikingly, they had a plan for the species that would one day call itself human. The Forbidden Tables tell us that the Anunnaki came to Earth in search of gold, a mineral they required to stabilize the atmosphere of their homeworld, Nibiru. This is not mere myth. According to the tablets, vast mining operations were established in Africa and Mesopotamia. Humans, initially primitive, were used as laborers in these operations. But over time, the Anunnaki realized they needed something more sophisticated than mere slaves. They needed workers who could think, adapt, and follow complex instructions. This led to the most controversial claim preserved in the Forbidden Tables, the genetic engineering of Homo sapiens. According to the inscriptions, Enki, one of the leading Anunnaki figures, combined the DNA of the Anunnaki with that of early humans to create a new species, beings with human appearance but with potential for intelligence, ingenuity, and adaptability far beyond the original humans. You are hearing a narrative that challenges everything we thought we knew. The very essence of humanity may be the product of deliberate design by extraterrestrial architects. But the Anunnaki were not a monolith. The tablets describe a society divided into ranks and factions. Enlil, often portrayed as a stern and authoritarian leader, believed that humans should remain subservient and controlled. Enki, on the other hand, seemed to favor collaboration, teaching early humans agriculture, irrigation, and medicine. These disagreements led to conflicts that would ripple across history, shaping not only early human civilizations but also the myths and religions that followed. The Forbidden Tablets go further than genealogy and politics. They record the immense lifespan and size of the Anunnaki. Many tablets describe beings taller than humans, with physical capabilities that allowed them to perform tasks impossible for early Homo sapiens. Their longevity was also remarkable, spanning centuries according to some inscriptions. You are reading about entities that existed on a scale that human imagination struggles to comprehend. Their technology, as revealed in the tablets, was equally extraordinary. Some inscriptions refer to devices that harnessed energy in ways humans would only begin to understand thousands of years later. They built structures aligned with celestial bodies, monitored planetary movements, and developed tools that could manipulate natural forces. In essence, they were engineers, architects, and scientists, beings whose knowledge dwarfed the capabilities of early human societies. It is crucial to understand that the Anunnaki did not simply impose their will on Earth, they interacted with humans in ways that were both subtle and profound. The forbidden tablets describe how they instructed early humans in agriculture, irrigation, and animal domestication. They taught humans to build cities, to create governance structures, and even to record history itself. In other words, civilization as we know it, writing, law, urban life, may have been gifts or impositions from the Anunnaki. Some tablets even hint at a moral framework imposed by the Anunnaki. They were concerned with order, obedience, and hierarchy. The establishment of kingship, priesthoods, and councils among humans mirrors the societal structure of the Anunnaki themselves. Those who followed the rules prospered, those who rebelled faced severe consequences, sometimes even death. You are learning that human concepts of law, justice, and leadership may have their roots in the mandates of beings who existed long before recorded history. Yet, as advanced as they were, the Anunnaki were not invincible. The forbidden tablets describe internal conflicts, rivalries, and even rebellions. Some factions of the Anunnaki disagreed over the treatment of humans. Others vied for control of precious resources. These tensions led to wars that were catastrophic for both humans and Anunnaki alike. The texts hint that many of the great floods, plagues, and upheavals recorded in myth and scripture may have originated from these struggles. You are seeing that history as we know it, the rise and fall of civilizations, may be only a shadow of the true cosmic dramas that shaped it. The Forbidden Tables also shed light on how humans were elevated to serve as intermediaries between the Anunnaki and their plans. Kings and priests were not merely political leaders, they were guardians of the knowledge passed down by these beings. Bloodlines were carefully maintained, and rituals ensured that only those with the proper genetic and spiritual preparation could access higher wisdom. Many of the rituals and symbols in ancient cultures, Sumerian, Egyptian, and Mesopotamian alike, can be traced to this intermingling of human and Anunnaki guidance. This brings us to the idea of forbidden knowledge. According to the tablets, certain wisdom was deliberately withheld from humanity. Secrets about the workings of the cosmos, the methods of genetic engineering, and the potential for human ascension were reserved for select Anunnaki or chosen humans. It is no coincidence that much of this knowledge was encoded in myths, allegories, and religious texts. By disguising these truths as stories, humanity was kept from fully understanding its origins or its potential. You are discovering why the knowledge of the Anunnaki was forbidden, because unrestricted access to it could disrupt the carefully managed balance of human development. Some scholars argue that the Anunnaki were not extraterrestrials in the modern sense but interdimensional beings, capable of appearing and disappearing at will, traversing time and space in ways we cannot comprehend. Whether this is true or not, the tablets make it clear that their knowledge and abilities far exceeded anything known to early humans. They were not limited by the same physical laws, and their understanding of biology, chemistry, and physics was unparalleled. You are witnessing a civilization that bridged the gap between divine myth and technological reality. The Anunnaki also influenced human culture in ways subtle but enduring. From writing and mathematics to architecture and astronomy, their fingerprints are evident across continents and millennia. Temples, ziggurats, and pyramids may not have been purely religious structures, they may have been observatories, energy conductors, or repositories of Anunnaki knowledge. You are realizing that what we consider ancient religion may in fact be the remnants of advanced teachings, carefully encoded to survive the test of time. But the story of the Anunnaki is not purely one of guidance and creation. The tablets speak of harsh punishments for rebellion, not just against humans, but among themselves. Civil strife among the Anunnaki often spilled over into human affairs, causing wars, famines, and societal collapses. The Forbidden Tables are blunt in their descriptions. Humanity was shaped both by benevolence and by the harsh realities of being a subordinate species in a world ruled by godlike beings. And then there is the question of departure. According to the tablets, after thousands of years on Earth, the Anunnaki began to leave, their numbers dwindling. Some claim they returned to Nibiru, leaving behind humans to manage the knowledge they had acquired. Others suggest that a select few remained in hiding, preserving forbidden knowledge for millennia. This departure, however, was not complete. Fragments of their influence remained encoded in bloodlines, rituals, and monuments. You are beginning to understand that the Anunnaki may have left Earth physically, but their legacy continues to shape the human story in ways most cannot perceive. So now, you must consider the implications. If these beings truly existed, and if their influence shaped humanity from the very beginning, what does that mean for our understanding of history, religion, and civilization? The Forbidden Tables suggest that much of what we take for granted, the rise of empires, the knowledge of agriculture, the wisdom of kings, is not merely human achievement but the result of intervention by beings far beyond our understanding. The next part of this journey will take you into the lost pre-flood civilizations, societies that thrived under the guidance of the Anunnaki, only to vanish in events that would later be mythologized as divine punishment. You will see how the Forbidden Tables provide evidence of advanced human cultures that existed long before the civilizations recorded in conventional history. And you will begin to glimpse the pattern that connects the Anunnaki to the rise, fall, and secret preservation of human knowledge throughout the ages. The Anunnaki were not just gods, not just rulers, they were the architects of the human story. And the Forbidden Tables are the blueprint. The lost pre-flood civilizations. You are about to travel further back than conventional history allows, to a time before recorded dynasties, empires, or kingdoms. The Forbidden Tables speak of a world transformed by the presence of the Anunnaki, a world of cities, technology, and knowledge that disappeared nearly entirely from human memory. These are the lost pre-flood civilizations, societies that flourished under the guidance of beings whose influence would echo through millennia. The first question you must ask is simple yet profound: what do we mean by pre-flood? Across the tablets, the Great Flood is described not merely as a myth, but as a cataclysmic reset, an event so destructive that it erased entire cultures, archives, and technological wonders. The flood was no local river overflowing, it was a global event, referenced in multiple ancient cultures, from Sumer to India, from Egypt to the Americas. These civilizations, the tablets reveal, were sophisticated beyond our modern understanding, yet their traces were nearly obliterated. The Forbidden Tables describe cities built to last, with precise geometries, aligned with celestial bodies, and constructed from materials far stronger than ordinary mud brick or stone. These were not mere settlements, they were centers of knowledge, administration, and industry. Some tablets reference locations whose remnants may still exist beneath layers of sediment and water, waiting for modern technology to uncover them. You are looking at evidence that human civilization did not begin in Mesopotamia or Egypt as mainstream history suggests, it had roots far older, often lost in cataclysm and concealment. One of the most remarkable pre-flood cities described is Eridu, considered by the Sumerians to be the first city ever established. According to the tablets, Eridu was founded under the guidance of Enki, who personally supervised the development of irrigation, agriculture, and governance. Its streets, temples, and reservoirs were built with knowledge given directly by the Anunnaki. The tablets describe vast energy conduits within the city, possibly powered by unknown technology, which allowed its inhabitants to live in prosperity and stability. You are witnessing a civilization that blended divine wisdom with human capability, a civilization whose achievements would seem impossible to historians constrained by conventional timelines. Another pre-flood civilization is referenced in fragments found near modern-day Turkey and the Zagros Mountains. The tablets speak of Zabala and Shuruppak, cities of advanced metallurgy and writing. These societies were centers of education, where humans learned mathematics, astronomy, and law under the supervision of Anunnaki teachers. But the texts are clear, this knowledge was selective. Only certain families, bloodlines, and priests had access to the full scope of Anunnaki instruction. The majority of humans labored or lived under the rules set by these divine overseers. The Forbidden Tables describe not only urban centers but also technological networks that spanned continents. Canals, reservoirs, and energy grids connected cities, allowing for the efficient movement of water, goods, and information. Some tablets hint at machines capable of harnessing wind, solar, and perhaps other unknown energy sources. To the modern reader, this may sound like science fiction, but consider that the descriptions are precise, repeated across independent texts, and consistent with later myths about flying chariots, divine fire, and energy spheres. You are seeing traces of an advanced civilization that may have rivaled or surpassed what we consider modern technology. The pre-flood humans themselves were unique. According to the tablets, they were taller, stronger, and more resilient than humans of later epochs. The genetic blending performed by the Anunnaki produced humans capable of feats impossible to ordinary Homo sapiens: rapid learning, endurance, and intellectual creativity. But the tablets emphasize one thing repeatedly: obedience was mandatory. Civilizations thrived under the guidance of their Anunnaki patrons but suffered when disobedience or rebellion emerged. These themes will resurface again and again in myths of divine wrath, punishment, and cataclysm. You must understand the stakes. The pre-flood civilizations were not just societies, they were repositories of forbidden knowledge. Writing, mathematics, astronomy, agriculture, metallurgy, medicine, and law were all being refined under Anunnaki supervision. Entire schools, archives, and libraries were established to preserve this knowledge. Some texts suggest that humans were being groomed for a future in which they would inherit not only the earth but also the accumulated wisdom of their creators. But as the tablets make painfully clear, this inheritance was interrupted by rebellion, both among humans and the Anunnaki themselves. Consider the story of Shuruppak, one of the most detailed accounts preserved in the Forbidden Tablets. The city thrived for centuries under the guidance of divine overseers. Its kings maintained direct contact with the Anunnaki, receiving instructions, warnings, and decrees. Yet, over time, corruption, pride, and ignorance crept into the human ranks. The Anunnaki debated whether to intervene directly or allow humans to suffer the consequences of their choices. These deliberations, recorded in the tablets, read like minutes of a divine council, a council that would ultimately decide the fate of humanity itself. It was during these debates that the decision for the Great Flood emerged. According to the tablets, the flood was both a punishment and a reset mechanism. It erased the accumulated corruption of human cities, destroyed technologies that might fall into the wrong hands, and eliminated the Anunnaki factions that had become politically or morally dangerous. However, the texts also note that some humans were preserved, those who were loyal, knowledgeable, or genetically aligned with the Anunnaki's plans. This preservation formed the basis for post-flood civilizations, seeding the rebirth of human society with the genes, knowledge, and culture necessary to continue. The Forbidden Tablets further describe pre-flood trade and diplomacy. Cities exchanged goods, technology, and knowledge under Anunnaki supervision. The concept of currency, measurement, and even legal contracts may have originated in this period, derived from the Anunnaki's need to regulate human labor and resources. Trade networks extended across vast distances, connecting Africa, Mesopotamia, and the Indus region. Some of these networks may explain the sudden emergence of advanced metallurgy, ceramics, and architecture in widely separated civilizations after the flood. You are beginning to see patterns that conventional archaeology struggles to explain. Some tablets hint at pre-flood explorations beyond Earth itself. The Anunnaki's interest in astronomy and the movement of planets is well documented, but certain inscriptions suggest missions to other worlds or even interplanetary communication. Humans, as assistants and observers, may have participated in these operations, learning about cosmic cycles, orbital mechanics, and celestial phenomena. If true, the knowledge carried forward by survivors of the flood was far more than earthbound, it was cosmic, linking humanity to a larger universe in ways almost entirely forgotten. The Forbidden Tables also preserve the story of rebellion and internal conflict. Not all humans accepted the rule of the Anunnaki without resistance. Some factions attempted to steal knowledge, manipulate the Anunnaki, or defy their authority. These rebellions were met with harsh responses, sometimes including the annihilation of entire cities. The Great Flood, as the tablets describe, was partially a response to such rebellion, a method to reset humanity, ensure obedience, and preserve the continuity of selected bloodlines. You are seeing a civilization both advanced and fragile, thriving under guidance but vulnerable to hubris and internal strife. Finally, the pre-flood civilizations left traces that survived the flood. The Forbidden Tablets hint at hidden archives, buried cities, and encoded knowledge preserved in symbols, myths, and architectural alignments. The Great Pyramid of Giza, ziggurats, and other monuments may contain fragments of pre-flood understanding, waiting for those who can decode their secrets. Some researchers even argue that knowledge of advanced astronomy, mathematics, and engineering in ancient Egypt and Sumer reflects a continuity that stretches back to pre-flood times. As you consider all of this, one truth becomes unavoidable: the history of humanity is far older and far more complex than mainstream accounts suggest. Pre-flood civilizations, guided by the Anunnaki, achieved levels of sophistication that challenge conventional timelines. They created cities, technologies, and knowledge networks that rival our modern understanding, only to be almost entirely erased by cataclysm and deliberate concealment. Yet, fragments of this lost history survive, encoded in the forbidden tables, preserved in myths, and buried beneath layers of earth and time. The next part of this journey will take you into the genetic experiments of the Anunnaki and the creation of humanity as we know it. You will learn about the blending of divine and human DNA, the birth of selected bloodlines, and the implications for civilization, religion, and the hidden rulers who continue to influence our world. The Forbidden Tables are about to reveal the most intimate secrets of human origins, secrets hidden for tens of thousands of years. The lost pre-flood civilizations were more than a memory, they were the foundation of humanity itself. And the tablets are the only remaining testament to their existence. Genetic engineering and the creation of humans. You are now entering the most astonishing chapter of the Forbidden Tables, the chapter where the very essence of humanity is revealed to be the product of deliberate design. According to these ancient records, humans were not born solely from evolution in the natural sense, but were shaped, engineered, and genetically manipulated by the Anunnaki. This revelation challenges every assumption about our origins and raises questions that scholars, scientists, and theologians alike have struggled to confront. The Forbidden Tablets describe Enki, one of the Anunnaki leaders, as a master of biological science. He possessed knowledge of genes, heredity, and life forms far beyond the capabilities of any human civilization of the time. The texts suggest that Enki experimented with DNA, combining elements of the Anunnaki genome with that of early hominids. The result was a new species, one capable of labor, thought, learning, and adaptation, humans as we know them today. The tablets emphasize the purpose of this genetic engineering: labor. Humanity was designed to serve, to mine, farm, and manage resources under the supervision of the Anunnaki. But Enki, according to the texts, took an interest in his creation. Unlike Enlil, who favored strict control and obedience, Enki encouraged development, teaching the first humans the basics of agriculture, architecture, and medicine. The genetic engineering was not simply physical, it included cognitive potential, curiosity, and problem-solving capacity. In other words, humans were not only strong enough for work, they were designed to think, learn, and adapt. The Forbidden Tables describe the process of creation in meticulous detail. Early humans were enhanced incrementally. Genes were spliced, traits were adjusted, and abilities were optimized. Some inscriptions suggest the creation of specialized classes of humans: laborers, scholars, leaders, and priests. These groups were genetically and culturally predisposed for specific roles within pre-flood civilizations. You are seeing the roots of societal hierarchies and class divisions encoded not only in culture but in biology itself. The tablets also reveal the concept of divine bloodlines. Certain humans were chosen to carry a combination of Anunnaki and human genes, creating lineages that would serve as intermediaries between humans and the gods. These bloodlines were carefully preserved, maintained, and protected. In time, they formed the basis for royalty, priesthoods, and ruling dynasties. You are beginning to see why myths across the globe speak of kings descending from gods, of divine rulers whose authority was inherited rather than earned. The genetic engineering extended beyond physical traits. The Anunnaki sought to imbue humans with potential for intellectual and spiritual growth. Some tablets describe the awakening of higher consciousness, an awareness that would allow humans to comprehend celestial movements, cosmic cycles, and metaphysical principles. This knowledge was initially reserved for select individuals, often priests or scribes, who were trained under Anunnaki supervision. The rest of humanity, while capable of learning, was guided primarily toward labor and survival. The Forbidden Tablets also hint at the creation of hybrid beings, individuals who were neither fully Anunnaki nor fully human, but something in between. These hybrids were often described as taller, stronger, and more intelligent than ordinary humans. Some tablets suggest that they served as intermediaries, advisors, and enforcers, bridging the gap between humans and their creators. These hybrids may be the origin of myths about demigods, giants, and legendary heroes in various cultures. You are seeing that what we consider mythology may, in fact, be a distorted memory of genetic reality. The process was not without controversy. Enlil, the stern Anunnaki leader, opposed some of Enki's experiments, fearing that humans with too much knowledge or capability might rebel. The tablets describe disputes, secret councils, and interventions designed to regulate the pace and scope of genetic manipulation. You are witnessing the origins of a cosmic debate: freedom versus control, creativity versus obedience, evolution versus design. This debate would have consequences for both humans and Anunnaki for generations. The Forbidden Tables also suggest that human aging, mortality, and disease were influenced by Anunnaki design. Early humans were initially longer-lived, stronger, and more resilient, but over time, modifications introduced limitations, perhaps as a method of control. Mortality, physical weakness, and susceptibility to illness were introduced as checks on the human population, ensuring dependency on Anunnaki guidance and preventing unchecked growth. You are learning that even the frailties of the human condition may have been carefully orchestrated. The tablets contain references to specific genetic traits passed down through generations. Certain families were instructed to preserve these traits, often through arranged unions or selective breeding. This is where the idea of royal and priestly bloodlines emerges. The genetic legacy of the Anunnaki was not meant for all humanity, it was safeguarded, encoded in ritual, myth, and lore. You are seeing how the foundations of human civilization, its dynasties, hierarchies, and sacred knowledge, are directly tied to genetic design. One of the most shocking claims of the Forbidden Tables involves human potential beyond physical labor. Enki, in particular, believed humans could achieve abilities equal or even superior to those of their creators if knowledge and opportunity were properly given. Some inscriptions hint at latent psychic abilities, heightened intelligence, and spiritual capacities that were initially suppressed or restricted. These abilities, encoded in DNA, could be awakened under the right conditions, through learning, ritual, or contact with Anunnaki technology. You are seeing the blueprint for human potential hidden within our very biology. The tablets also describe the spread of genetically engineered humans across the Earth. After their creation, humans were deployed to mines, cities, and agricultural regions under the watch of the Anunnaki. Some humans were left in isolation to form independent civilizations, while others were carefully integrated into existing Anunnaki settlements. This dispersion explains the sudden emergence of complex societies in different regions of the world, often with advanced technologies and astronomical knowledge that conventional history struggles to explain. The Forbidden Tables are explicit about the ethical considerations surrounding genetic engineering. Some Anunnaki worried about the consequences of creating beings capable of independent thought, rebellion, or ambition. Others saw it as a divine mandate, a responsibility to cultivate intelligence, creativity, and civilization. These debates were recorded meticulously, suggesting that the Anunnaki were not mindless rulers, but conscious actors aware of the immense responsibility involved in creating life. You are witnessing a civilization that treated creation itself as a moral, political, and cosmic act. The genetic experiments were not limited to humans alone. Some tablets describe experiments on animals, plants, and hybrid species. These manipulations served both practical and symbolic purposes, enhancing food production, improving labor efficiency, and reinforcing the Anunnaki's authority over the natural world. You are discovering a planet deliberately shaped and engineered for productivity, hierarchy, and longevity, with humanity as both participant and product. The consequences of these experiments extended far beyond the immediate pre-flood civilizations. When the Great Flood came, some human bloodlines, knowledge, and genetic enhancements were preserved deliberately, according to the tablets. This preservation ensured that post-flood humanity would inherit not only the genes of its creators but also fragments of their wisdom, culture, and technology. You are seeing a continuity of influence that stretches across millennia, a hidden hand guiding the survival and evolution of humanity. The Forbidden Tables also record resistance and rebellion among humans. Not all were willing to accept their engineered status or subservient roles. Some sought to steal knowledge, build unauthorized technologies, or confront the Anunnaki directly. The tablets describe consequences for these rebellions, wars, destruction, and, ultimately, the necessity of the flood as a corrective measure. You are witnessing a world in which creation, freedom, and obedience were in constant tension, with humanity caught in the middle. Finally, the tablets hint at the long-term plan of the Anunnaki. Genetic engineering was not a one-time act, it was a process designed to unfold over generations. Certain humans were intended to develop skills, knowledge, and spiritual awareness that would allow them to inherit Earth after the Anunnaki departed. Bloodlines, rituals, and knowledge transmission were all carefully orchestrated. You are seeing evidence that humanity was being groomed for a future that would span millennia, guided by invisible architects and hidden wisdom. The next part of this documentary will explore the Anunnaki bloodlines and kingship, examining how these engineered humans became rulers, priests, and intermediaries for their creators. You will see how civilization, governance, and power structures may have originated from these divine interactions, and how the Forbidden Tables preserve the record of these hidden lineages. The creation of humanity, according to the Forbidden Tables, was a deliberate act of cosmic engineering, a process blending science, morality, and divine intent. And it is only in understanding this chapter that the full story of the Anunnaki, and of ourselves, can begin to emerge. Bloodlines and kingship from heaven. You are about to enter a chapter of history deliberately obscured, a chapter that connects the divine with the mortal, the extraterrestrial with the human. The Forbidden Tables are clear. The Anunnaki did not merely create humans, they designed societies, rulers, and dynasties. They instilled in certain humans a direct connection to their blood, their wisdom, and their authority. This is the origin of what the tablets describe as kingship from heaven. The story begins with Enlil, the stern leader of the Anunnaki, who insisted that order must be maintained. According to the tablets, Enlil established the principle that leadership on Earth should not be arbitrary, it should be inherited, codified, and divine in origin. Those selected to rule were often hybrids, humans infused with Anunnaki DNA, chosen for intelligence, longevity, and obedience. These bloodlines were preserved, recorded, and protected, becoming the foundation of pre-flood civilization's governance. The Forbidden Tables are explicit. Kingship was not merely ceremonial, it was genetic, spiritual, and political. Royal bloodlines were expected to embody the traits of the Anunnaki: wisdom, physical endurance, and insight into cosmic laws. They were intermediaries between humans and the Anunnaki, tasked with maintaining order, preserving knowledge, and transmitting divine mandates to their subjects. You are beginning to see that leadership was not an accident, it was the direct result of cosmic engineering. The tablets describe how kings were chosen and groomed. From birth, certain children were monitored for signs of divine potential, intelligence, courage, adaptability, and spiritual sensitivity. Priests and scribes, themselves trained under Anunnaki supervision, oversaw education, rituals, and physical training. These children were not ordinary humans, they were living vessels of Anunnaki intention, destined to guide society and maintain the sacred order. One of the most remarkable aspects of these bloodlines is their connection to sacred knowledge. The Forbidden Tables reveal that kings were custodians of texts, artifacts, and technology that ordinary humans could not access. They were taught astronomy, mathematics, medicine, and metallurgy, a knowledge directly imparted by the Anunnaki. This created a hierarchy not only of power but of wisdom, ensuring that advanced understanding was preserved within select families. You are seeing the roots of priesthoods, dynasties, and the intertwining of religion with governance. The concept of divine kingship is not unique to Sumer. Across the globe, myths speak of rulers descended from gods, Egyptian pharaohs claimed lineage from Ra and Horus, Indian kings traced ancestry to solar and lunar deities, and Mesoamerican leaders invoke divine parentage. The Forbidden Tables suggest a common source: the Anunnaki themselves. These myths are echoes, distorted memories of a time when rulers were literally chosen by the gods, or created to be like them. The tablets also emphasize the responsibilities of these rulers. They were not meant to wield power for personal gain but to maintain harmony between humans and Anunnaki guidance. Laws were administered according to divine principles, cities were governed with attention to balance and order, and rituals ensured alignment with cosmic cycles. Kings were spiritual as well as political figures, and their legitimacy depended on their adherence to sacred duties. You are seeing the origin of laws, governance, and societal order as instruments of divine will. Bloodlines were carefully preserved through selective mating and intermarriage. The Forbidden Tables describe unions arranged to concentrate Anunnaki traits within ruling families. This ensured that intelligence, longevity, and spiritual sensitivity remained strong in subsequent generations. Some scholars suggest that this may explain the unusual longevity and intellectual capabilities of ancient rulers, from Sumerian kings to pharaohs of Egypt. You are witnessing a deliberate effort to maintain human-divine hybrids over centuries. The tablets also describe contingencies for rebellion or failure. Not all rulers fulfilled their purpose. Some succumbed to ambition, corruption, or ignorance, threatening the balance that the Anunnaki had designed. In such cases, intervention was required either directly by the Anunnaki or through ritual and political mechanisms designed to remove unworthy leaders. The flood, mentioned repeatedly in the Forbidden Tables, was in part a reset for humanity, ensuring that only select bloodlines survived and that the Anunnaki's plan for kingship and governance remained intact. The Forbidden Tables reveal another striking detail: some bloodlines were secret, hidden, or scattered. Certain families carried the genetic legacy of the Anunnaki but were deliberately removed from public knowledge. These families maintained hidden knowledge, artifacts, and records, preserving the sacred wisdom for future generations. You are seeing the origin of secret societies, hidden dynasties, and custodians of forbidden knowledge, a theme that recurs throughout human history. The tablets also suggest that priesthoods were extensions of royal bloodlines. Priests were often selected from families with Anunnaki ancestry, trained to oversee rituals, manage archives, and communicate divine decrees. Their role was not merely religious, it was administrative and genetic. Priests served as intermediaries, ensuring that the sacred laws and knowledge of the Anunnaki were upheld across generations. You are witnessing the fusion of governance, spirituality, and genetics in a system designed to endure across millennia. The influence of the Anunnaki bloodlines extended beyond the pre-flood world. After the flood, survivors of select bloodlines were re-established in new civilizations, carrying forward the traits, knowledge, and authority imbued by their creators. This explains the sudden emergence of advanced kingship, centralized governments, and sacred dynasties in post-flood civilizations, from Sumer and Egypt to India and Mesoamerica. You are seeing continuity where mainstream history sees a blank slate. The Forbidden Tables also hint at intervention by the Anunnaki even after humans were established as rulers. In times of crisis, famine, or war, the Anunnaki may have returned briefly to guide, correct, or protect certain bloodlines. These interventions were rare but deliberate, reinforcing the sacred hierarchy and ensuring that humanity remained on the path set by their creators. You are witnessing a system of governance that transcends mere politics; it is cosmic, genetic, and spiritual. The tablets also explain the mystery of ancient monuments. Many pyramids, ziggurats, and temples were not merely religious centers but markers of sacred bloodlines and repositories of knowledge. Only select rulers, descendants of Anunnaki-guided lineages, could access the full scope of their power. Symbols, inscriptions, and alignments encoded astronomical, genetic, and spiritual information. You are beginning to understand that human civilization was intentionally structured to preserve these sacred lines and their hidden wisdom. In addition, the Forbidden Tables emphasize the interconnection of bloodlines across regions. Ruling families were deliberately interlinked, often through arranged unions spanning great distances. This created networks of influence, ensuring that Anunnaki-guided genetic traits, wisdom, and authority were widely distributed yet tightly controlled. You are seeing the blueprint of an ancient global system, an intricate web of power, knowledge, and divine legacy that shaped the development of civilization. The consequences of these bloodlines are profound. Even today, myths of divine kings, chosen people, and sacred lineages may carry traces of this ancient system. Symbols, rituals, and societal hierarchies often reflect the ancient patterns encoded by the Anunnaki. You are observing the enduring legacy of genetic engineering and divine governance, a hidden framework that has persisted in human culture for thousands of years. Finally, the Forbidden Tables reveal that the Anunnaki were concerned with the long-term survival of their genetic legacy. They understood that humans would face natural disasters, rebellion, and ignorance. By establishing sacred bloodlines, guided rulers, and hidden knowledge, they ensured that select humans could inherit not just the earth but also the wisdom necessary to preserve civilization. You are learning that what we consider monarchy, priesthood, or noble lineage may have origins far older, and far more deliberate, than previously imagined. The next part of this documentary will delve into the Great Rebellion and the erased history, uncovering the conflicts between humans and Anunnaki factions, the internal wars that disrupted civilization, and the deliberate efforts to hide and manipulate knowledge. You will see how these struggles shaped myths, destroyed archives, and led to the near erasure of pre-flood histories. The Forbidden Tables show that the story of bloodlines and kingship is not merely about rulers, it is about the very framework of civilization itself, engineered by beings from beyond, preserved in secrecy, and hidden in plain sight for millennia. The Great Rebellion and the Erased History. You are now entering the shadowed corridors of history, a time when the delicate balance between humans and the Anunnaki began to collapse. The Forbidden Tables speak of a Great Rebellion, a series of conflicts that shook pre-flood civilizations to their foundations and altered the trajectory of humanity. These were not ordinary wars, they were cosmic struggles, played out between godlike beings and their human creations, with consequences that would echo for millennia. The rebellion, according to the tablets, was triggered by human disobedience and ambition, combined with factional conflicts among the Anunnaki themselves. Some humans, empowered with knowledge and genetic enhancements, began to challenge their roles as subservient laborious. They sought forbidden knowledge, attempted to build technologies without Anunnaki oversight, or defied orders outright. The texts describe these humans as brilliant and audacious, yet reckless, capable of feats that rivaled their creators, yet dangerously unprepared for the consequences. Enlil, the Anunnaki leader, perceived this as a direct threat to the carefully constructed order. He convened secret councils with other high-ranking Anunnaki, debating how to respond. Some, like Enki, advocated for guidance and restraint, believing that humans could evolve responsibly. Others argued for drastic action, warning that rebellion could destabilize entire civilizations. The tablets reveal the tension and fear, the fate of humanity hung in the balance, and the choices made in these councils would determine who survived and who was erased from history. The rebellion was not confined to humans alone. The tablets describe factions among the Anunnaki, driven by ambition, jealousy, and differing philosophies about how humanity should be governed. Enki and his allies sought to preserve knowledge, nurture humans, and maintain harmony. Enlil and his supporters prioritized obedience, control, and the elimination of perceived threats. These internal conflicts manifested in wars, sabotage, and manipulations that left entire cities in ruins. You are seeing a world in which divine beings themselves struggled for dominance, often at the expense of human life. The Forbidden Tables record specific uprisings in major pre-flood cities. Shuruppak, Eridu, and Nippur are described as centers of rebellion, where humans attempted to seize knowledge, control technology, or challenge Anunnaki authority. According to the inscriptions, some humans even sought to create their own hybrids or technologies without supervision, directly violating the principles set by their creators. The responses were brutal, entire populations were decimated, structures destroyed, and knowledge deliberately hidden or erased. You are witnessing the catastrophic consequences of rebellion against beings whose power dwarfed human understanding. One of the most significant outcomes of these conflicts was the erasure of history. The Forbidden Tables emphasize that records, technologies, and archives were deliberately destroyed or concealed. Knowledge that could empower humans to rebel further or surpass Anunnaki control was removed from circulation. Entire libraries, ziggurats, and repositories were buried, burned, or submerged. The flood itself, as the tablets reveal, was the ultimate instrument of erasure, a deliberate reset designed to eliminate corruption, rebellion, and dangerous knowledge. Yet, the tablets also make clear that some humans were preserved intentionally. Certain bloodlines, loyal or genetically aligned with the Anunnaki, were spared. These survivors became the foundation for post-flood civilizations, inheriting fragments of knowledge, technology, and governance. You are beginning to see a pattern. Humanity's survival was selective, engineered, and deliberate, ensuring that only certain traits, lineages, and wisdom persisted. The Forbidden Tables are precise in describing the methods used to erase history. Libraries and archives were destroyed, inscriptions defaced, and technological devices dismantled. Symbols and rituals were altered to obscure their original purpose. Some knowledge was encoded in myths, allegories, and religious practices, preserved in a form incomprehensible to ordinary humans. This deliberate obfuscation ensured that future generations would inherit fragments of the past, but not the full picture. You are seeing how rebellion and fear led to the systematic concealment of human and Anunnaki history alike. The rebellion also had cosmic consequences. The tablets suggest that the disturbances disrupted natural cycles, triggering environmental catastrophes, climate shifts, and geological upheavals. Some scholars interpret these passages as references to events like the Great Flood, massive storms, and shifts in coastlines. The rebellion, both human and divine, destabilized the planet in ways that required drastic corrective measures. You are seeing that history's great disasters may have roots in struggles recorded only in forbidden texts. Interestingly, the Forbidden Tables hint at survival strategies employed by both humans and Anunnaki. Humans seeking to preserve knowledge went underground, hiding artifacts, texts, and technologies in caves, tombs, and remote locations. Some Anunnaki withdrew from direct intervention, observing from a distance while the consequences unfolded. These strategies ensured that fragments of pre-flood wisdom survived, scattered across the globe, waiting for rediscovery. You are witnessing a deliberate preservation of knowledge even amidst chaos, a hidden hand safeguarding the secrets of civilization. The tablets also reveal the moral and philosophical dimensions of the rebellion. The Anunnaki debated whether humans were inherently capable of responsible knowledge, whether obedience was preferable to freedom, and whether divine oversight should be permanent or temporary. These discussions were recorded meticulously, suggesting that the Anunnaki were conscious of the ethical implications of creation and control. You are learning that rebellion was not merely political or physical, it was philosophical, challenging the very principles of life, governance, and morality. One of the most disturbing revelations of the Forbidden Tables is the extent of deliberate manipulation. The Anunnaki did not merely respond to rebellion, they actively engineered events to guide humanity, including wars, floods, and plagues. Knowledge was hidden, bloodlines controlled, and society steered according to a plan that only the Anunnaki fully understood. You are witnessing a civilization in which the creators themselves intervened repeatedly, shaping the course of history in subtle and overt ways. The consequences of rebellion were also intergenerational. Humans who survived the conflicts inherited both the benefits and limitations of Anunnaki intervention. Some were genetically enhanced, some carried latent knowledge, and some were positioned to preserve and transmit sacred bloodlines. Yet others were left with gaps in understanding, ignorance, and subservience, a deliberate measure to maintain balance and prevent future uprisings. You are seeing the origin of human inequality, privilege, and mystery encoded in biology and culture. The Forbidden Tables emphasize that the erasure of history was not complete. Despite floods, wars, and destruction, fragments survived, encoded in myths, sacred texts, and hidden archives. Some knowledge was preserved in secret societies, priesthoods, and ruling dynasties, ensuring continuity across generations. These fragments would form the foundation for post-flood civilizations, carrying forward the legacies of both human rebellion and Anunnaki guidance. You are witnessing the survival of a hidden narrative that mainstream history deliberately ignores. Finally, the tablets suggest that the lessons of the rebellion were intended to guide future generations. Humans were warned about the dangers of hubris, disobedience, and uncontrolled ambition. Knowledge, power, and technology were to be approached with caution and reverence. The flood and other cataclysms were recorded as both punishment and instruction, a stark reminder of what happens when humans overreach or disregard cosmic law. You are seeing that history itself was designed to be a teacher, preserving fragments of wisdom while concealing the full truth. The next part of this documentary will explore the Watchers and forbidden knowledge, focusing on the Anunnaki figures who monitored humanity, the secrets they preserved, and the technologies and wisdom deliberately kept hidden from general human understanding. You will see how these Watchers influenced civilizations, guided selected bloodlines, and maintained control over knowledge for millennia. The Great Rebellion and the erasure of history demonstrate a sobering truth. The story of humanity is not a simple narrative of evolution or culture, it is a deliberately engineered saga, shaped by beings whose intentions, wisdom, and interventions are preserved only in the Forbidden Tables. The Watchers and the Forbidden Knowledge. You were taught that the gods came to rule mankind. The Forbidden Tables say something very different. They reveal that not all gods agreed with the plan, and some chose humanity over heaven, and paid the ultimate price. These were the Watchers, Anunnaki who defied orders, descended to Earth, and shared forbidden knowledge with humans. They were rebels, mentors, and sometimes lovers of humankind, whose legacy would shake civilization for millennia. The Watchers emerged during the pre-flood age of conflict, a time when rebellion among humans and divisions among the Anunnaki threatened to destroy everything. Some Anunnaki, inspired by compassion or by curiosity, saw potential in humanity. They believed that humans could rise, evolve, and inherit knowledge intended only for the gods. According to the Forbidden Tables, these Watchers taught what was forbidden: astronomy, mathematics, metallurgy, herbal medicine, architecture, writing, and the secrets of genetics. In doing so, they broke cosmic law. You are about to discover that these rebels were not subtle in their defiance. The Watchers did not merely observe, they intervened directly in human affairs. They built schools, workshops, and libraries. They instructed select humans in the arts of science, magic, and governance. They even shared technologies capable of altering life itself. The Forbidden Tables make clear that their actions were deliberate and intentional. Every tool, every instruction, every lesson was meant to accelerate human potential, but it also created enemies among the loyal Anunnaki. The consequences were immediate and far-reaching. Humans, suddenly empowered, began to experiment with the secrets of life. They attempted hybridization, engineered stronger crops and animals, and even wielded weapons far beyond the knowledge of their peers. Some humans became giants, hybrids born of Watchers and humans, creatures described in myths across cultures as Nephilim, mighty men of renown, warriors, and kings whose strength and intellect rivaled that of the gods themselves. You are seeing a moment when humanity's destiny was being rewritten under the guidance of rebels who dared to defy heaven. The Forbidden Tables detail the tensions among the Anunnaki. Enlil, stern and uncompromising, viewed the Watchers' actions as a direct threat to divine authority. He feared that humanity, armed with forbidden knowledge, could rise in rebellion, overturn the established order, or misuse technology that was never meant for mortal hands. Enki, by contrast, warned that suppressing human potential entirely would be catastrophic. The Watchers, siding with humans, represented a middle path, a belief that knowledge should be shared responsibly, even if it meant defying hierarchy. You must understand the stakes. The Watchers were considered traitors to the Anunnaki. Their defiance was not minor, it was cosmic. The Forbidden Tables describe councils in which the loyal Anunnaki debated their fate, ultimately condemning the rebels to isolation, punishment, or exile. Some were imprisoned in other realms, while others were forced to leave the earth physically. Yet even in exile, the Watchers' influence persisted through the humans they had empowered and the technologies they had taught. You are witnessing the roots of every story in which gods or angels were cast down for aiding humanity. The forbidden knowledge shared by the Watchers was vast. Humans learned astronomy and celestial cycles, enabling them to predict eclipses, track planetary movements, and align monumental architecture with the stars. They learned metallurgy, creating alloys and tools far superior to previous generations. They were taught herbal medicine, genetics, and even methods to prolong life or enhance strength. Some tablets describe technologies that could harness energy, control weather, and alter landscapes. You are discovering that pre-flood humans were being prepared for a role far beyond mere labor. They were being prepared for partnership with the divine. The hybrid offspring of the Watchers and humans played a pivotal role. These beings, Nephilim in the texts, were often leaders, warriors, and knowledge bearers. Their physical abilities and intelligence exceeded ordinary humans, making them indispensable in pre-flood civilizations. Yet their existence also alarmed loyal Anunnaki. The Nephilim represented uncontrolled potential, a bridge between mortals and gods that could destabilize the order. According to the Forbidden Tables, these hybrids were central to the debate leading to the Great Flood, a catastrophe designed to reset the Earth and curb unchecked human advancement. Despite the looming catastrophe, the Watchers continued their work in secret. They created hidden libraries, encoded knowledge in myths, and safeguarded artifacts. They understood that their intervention would be punished, yet they deliberately ensured that some knowledge would survive. According to the Forbidden Tables, this is why fragments of pre-flood wisdom appear in ancient texts, symbols, and rituals across the world. The Watchers' teachings persisted even after the flood erased most human and Anunnaki influence. You are seeing how rebellion can leave a hidden legacy that survives across millennia. The Forbidden Tables also reveal the interpersonal relationships between Watchers and humans. Some Watchers took human partners, creating lineages that would inherit both divine traits and forbidden knowledge. Others acted purely as teachers, guiding human scholars in secret. These interactions created networks of influence, forming the foundations of priesthoods, secret societies, and dynasties that would persist after the flood. You are beginning to understand that many of humanity's oldest institutions, religious orders, mystic guilds, and ruling families may trace their origins back to these rebels. But the Watchers' rebellion had unintended consequences. Humans empowered with forbidden knowledge often misused it, creating weapons of mass destruction, constructing unholy edifices, or engaging in warfare that rivaled the gods. The Forbidden Tables are candid: rebellion breeds chaos. Even the Watchers, for all their wisdom, could not control the full impact of their teachings. This escalation contributed directly to the decision to unleash the flood, a cosmic reset meant to contain the damage, remove unworthy humans, and curtail the influence of the rebels. The flood, however, was not absolute. The Forbidden Tables describe chosen humans and hybrids who were preserved. These survivors carried both the bloodline of the Watchers and fragments of their knowledge. They became the seeds of post-flood civilizations, ensuring continuity of wisdom, technology, and leadership. You are learning that what appears as a historical restart was actually a carefully managed survival plan, orchestrated by rebels whose intent was to protect humanity from total erasure. You also see in the tablets that the Watchers were actively punished. Some were bound in spiritual or physical prisons, while others were exiled to distant lands or hidden dimensions. Their visibility was curtailed, yet their influence endured indirectly. Humans retained knowledge in cryptic symbols, encoded rituals, and sacred traditions. This is why certain texts, lost or forbidden, contain advanced knowledge that seems impossible for pre-flood humans to have discovered independently. You are discovering the hidden hand of rebellion embedded in the very foundations of civilization. The Forbidden Tables emphasize the global scope of the Watchers' intervention. Evidence of their influence is recorded across continents, from Mesopotamia to Egypt, India to Mesoamerica. Mathematics, astronomy, architecture, and spiritual systems all bear traces of the forbidden teachings. Some researchers suggest that knowledge of pyramid construction, celestial alignment, and sacred geometry can be traced directly to Watcher instruction. You are beginning to see that rebellion was not localized, it was planetary in scale. Furthermore, the Forbidden Tables reveal the ethical and philosophical motives of the Watchers. Unlike Enlil, who valued obedience, the rebels believed in human potential, autonomy, and growth. They recognized that knowledge could empower, liberate, and elevate. Yet they also understood the risks: knowledge without responsibility could destroy civilizations. Their rebellion was not merely defiance, it was an experiment in morality, freedom, and cosmic justice. You are learning that the Watchers were visionaries and caretakers, willing to risk everything for the evolution of humanity. The tablets also describe the long-term survival strategy of the Watchers. Knowing they would be punished, they encoded knowledge in artifacts, symbols, and human genetics. Sacred texts, hidden libraries, and priestly orders were created to ensure the continuity of forbidden knowledge. In effect, the rebellion planted seeds for future civilizations, allowing humans to eventually rediscover what had once been lost. You are seeing a deliberate plan to preserve wisdom across time, despite divine prohibition. Finally, the Forbidden Tables connect the Watchers' legacy to later secret societies and mystical traditions. Many of the esoteric teachings preserved in human history, from astrology and alchemy to advanced mathematics and sacred geometry, may trace back to the rebels. The tablets suggest that these networks were deliberately maintained to protect knowledge from those who would suppress it, ensuring that human advancement could continue even under strict oversight. You are learning that rebellion did not fail, it survived, hidden, encoded, and waiting for the right moment to be rediscovered. The next part of this documentary will explore the Great Flood and the survival of humanity, examining how the cataclysm erased most pre-flood knowledge, how select bloodlines and artifacts were preserved, and how the rebellion of the Watchers shaped the post-flood world. You will see how civilization was reset, yet continuity endured in hidden, encoded forms. The Watcher's story is a warning and a testament. Rebellion can be dangerous, but it can also preserve wisdom and shape the destiny of civilizations. Their legacy is written not in open history but in fragments, myths, and the forbidden tablets, records that humanity was never meant to remember, yet cannot completely forget. The Great Flood and the survival of humanity. You have witnessed rebellion, forbidden knowledge, and the rise of hybrids, yet now comes the chapter that changed everything, the Great Flood. According to the Forbidden Tables, this was not simply a natural disaster, but a deliberate reset orchestrated by the Anunnaki, a response to human defiance and the chaos unleashed by the Watchers. Civilization as it existed before the flood would be erased, yet select humans, hybrids, and knowledge were deliberately preserved. The flood was not a single event, but a sequence of cataclysmic acts. Rivers swelled beyond their banks, the skies unleashed torrents, and tectonic upheavals reshaped coastlines. The Forbidden Tables emphasize that this was not mere coincidence. The Anunnaki used their knowledge of the planet's mechanics, manipulating waters, weather, and geology to achieve a precise goal. You are about to discover that the flood was both punishment and preservation. According to the texts, loyal bloodlines and select hybrids were warned. Certain humans, aligned with the Watchers or genetically enhanced by them, were guided to construct shelters, store knowledge, and preserve artifacts. These instructions were not public, they were secretive, encoded in dreams, visions, or instructions delivered by the Watchers themselves. You are seeing how survival was selective, deliberate, and tied to bloodline and loyalty. The flood had multiple purposes. One was population control. Humanity had grown powerful, technologically adept, and increasingly independent. Hybrids and Nephilim, some of whom had challenged Anunnaki authority, represented unpredictable variables. According to the Forbidden Tables, the flood was designed to eliminate excess populations, weaken unchecked rebellion, and reset human civilization to a manageable state. Yet another purpose was knowledge control. Archives, libraries, and dangerous technologies were destroyed or submerged, leaving only fragments behind. You are learning that the construction of arks, shelters, and vaults was not myth but historical strategy. Selected humans were instructed to build massive storage systems capable of preserving seeds, livestock, tools, and crucial artifacts. Some of these shelters were also repositories of knowledge, clay tablets, sacred scrolls, and encoded instructions that would allow humanity to rebuild civilization after the waters receded. The Forbidden Tables describe these vaults as carefully placed across the ancient world, some in mountains, others beneath the earth. The flood also had a genetic component. Bloodlines chosen for survival were preserved intentionally, while others were eradicated. Those who survived carried with them the combined legacies of humanity and the Watcher's influence. The Forbidden Tables suggest that this genetic preservation was as important as the preservation of physical artifacts. You are seeing that the flood was not only an environmental reset but also a controlled experiment in heredity and continuity. The tablets are clear that the flood was not universally catastrophic for all Anunnaki. Loyal or Watch-aligned Anunnaki supervised the process, ensuring the survival of select humans and hybrids. However, the rebels, the Watchers themselves, often faced punishment for their defiance. Some were bound, others exiled, yet their teachings survived indirectly through the humans they guided. You are discovering a paradox. The Watchers were punished, yet their rebellion was encoded into the very fabric of post-flood civilization. The flood reshaped society in profound ways. With the loss of large populations and the destruction of infrastructure, humans were forced to relearn agriculture, governance, and craftsmanship. Yet those who had inherited knowledge from the Watchers retained an advantage. They became priests, kings, and advisors, preserving fragments of technology, astronomy, and ritual. According to the Forbidden Tables, this is why post-flood civilizations often emerge suddenly, with knowledge and skills far beyond what could be explained by natural development alone. You are witnessing the continuity of the hidden legacy of the Watchers. The Forbidden Tables also reveal the survival of artifacts. Certain objects of power, ceremonial instruments, and technological devices were preserved in hidden locations. These artifacts carried encoded knowledge, designed to be rediscovered when humanity was ready, or in some cases, never meant to be rediscovered. Some of these items were linked to the Watchers' teachings, serving as bridges between pre-flood wisdom and post-flood civilization. You are beginning to understand how myths of lost cities, buried treasures, and forbidden relics are rooted in historical fact. The flood created an opportunity for new civilizations to emerge under careful supervision. Humans who survived were often reorganized, guided into new settlements, and assigned roles according to their bloodlines. Hybrids, priests, and chosen humans inherited authority, while others were left to develop basic survival skills. The Forbidden Tables describe this as a deliberate effort to preserve order, prevent rebellion, and ensure that the lessons of the past, both successes and failures, were not forgotten. One striking detail from the tables is the deliberate concealment of knowledge in symbolic form. Many texts, rituals, and artifacts were encoded in allegory, myth, or religious observance. This allowed knowledge to survive without being misused, ensuring that humans would have access to wisdom in a controlled, generationally transmitted manner. You are learning that much of what we call myth, legend, or scripture may be a carefully masked record of pre-flood events and forbidden knowledge. The flood also had psychological consequences. Survivors were traumatized, aware that they had witnessed forces beyond comprehension. The Watchers' teachings, though preserved, became secretive, restricted to select individuals or bloodlines. Oral traditions, symbolic rituals, and encoded myths became the primary vehicle for passing knowledge. You are beginning to see how memory, trauma, and secrecy combine to obscure history while preserving it in subtle ways. The Forbidden Tables suggest that the global scale of the flood ensured uniformity. From Mesopotamia to the Indus Valley, humans were reduced to small, controlled populations. Those who survived shared knowledge and bloodlines directly linked to the Watchers. You are witnessing a reset that maintained both genetic and intellectual continuity while removing uncontrolled elements that had caused rebellion before. Interestingly, the tables also hint at divine regret. Some Anunnaki, even among the loyalists, were troubled by the scale of destruction. They mourned the loss of life and knowledge but justified the act as necessary to preserve humanity in a form that could eventually thrive under controlled guidance. The Watchers, although punished, viewed the survival of select humans and bloodlines as a moral victory. They had ensured that their rebellion had lasting consequences. The post-flood period was one of reconstruction under hidden guidance. Humans rebuilt cities, cultivated the land, and developed governance structures. The Forbidden Tables imply that much of what we consider post-flood civilization was directly influenced by survivors who retained fragments of forbidden knowledge. These humans, aligned with Watcher teachings, became the architects of new societies, embedding wisdom in religion, law, architecture, and ritual. You are learning that history was restarted, but not rewritten entirely. The flood also served as a lesson in obedience, hierarchy, and morality. Humans who inherited knowledge were warned, power must be used responsibly, technology must be respected, and the lessons of rebellion must not be repeated. According to the Forbidden Tables, these lessons were reinforced through stories, rituals, and encoded knowledge, a system designed to ensure that humanity would eventually mature under guidance while retaining the seeds of forbidden wisdom. Finally, the flood's aftermath preserved the tension between hidden knowledge and public understanding. Survivors carried with them both the potential to rediscover lost arts and the mandate to respect divine limits. Priests, rulers, and secret societies became custodians, transmitting knowledge carefully across generations. The Watcher's influence endured indirectly, encoded in bloodlines, artifacts, and sacred texts. You are beginning to see that even cataclysm cannot completely erase rebellion or wisdom, it can only reshape the way it survives. The next part of this documentary will explore the rise of post-flood civilizations and the hidden influence of the Watchers, examining how their teachings resurfaced, guided kings, and inspired monumental architecture, science, and mysticism across the ancient world. You will see how the survivors of rebellion laid the foundations of history as we know it, yet in a way deliberately obscured from common memory. The Great Flood was not merely an act of destruction, it was a calculated reset. Humanity was punished, yet preserved. Knowledge was erased, yet encoded. Bloodlines were culled, yet selectively protected. And the Watchers, punished and hidden, ensured that their rebellion, though suppressed, would leave a legacy that would shape civilization for millennia to come. Post-flood civilizations and the hidden influence of the Watchers. The flood reshaped the earth and humanity, yet its survivors carried forward threads of forbidden knowledge, bloodlines, and rebellion. The Forbidden Tables reveal a startling truth: post-flood civilizations were not born from ignorance, but from carefully preserved guidance, secret teachings, and deliberate mentorship. The Watchers, punished yet enduring in legacy, influence rulers, priests, and architects across the globe, embedding the hidden wisdom of pre-flood civilizations into new societies. You are about to uncover how this hidden hand shaped human history. Despite destruction and chaos, the Watchers' influence resurfaced through select bloodlines. These families inherited knowledge from their ancestors, including skills in metallurgy, astronomy, agriculture, medicine, and governance. According to the Forbidden Tables, they became advisors, priests, and kings, subtly guiding the rebirth of civilizations while maintaining secrecy. You are witnessing the hidden continuity of pre-flood wisdom. Mesopotamia emerged as the first major post-flood civilization. Cities like Ur, Uruk, and Eridu were built under the influence of descendants of Watcher-aligned bloodlines. The Forbidden Tables describe royal dynasties that claim divine ancestry, not as mythology, but as historical fact. Kings were trained in secret arts inherited from the Watchers, instructed in mathematics, astronomy, ritual, and leadership. They maintained sacred archives, often encoded in cuneiform, which preserved fragments of forbidden knowledge. You are seeing a civilization guided not merely by survival, but by inherited wisdom. The influence of the Watchers extended beyond Mesopotamia. In Egypt, pharaohs claimed descent from sky gods and practiced rituals that encoded astronomical knowledge. Pyramid construction, alignment with celestial events, and hieroglyphic inscriptions all reflect techniques described in the Forbidden Tables as Watcher-taught arts. Priestly classes ensured that only select individuals could access advanced knowledge, maintaining secrecy while allowing civilization to flourish. You are beginning to see how rebellion's legacy shaped monumental architecture and ritual. In the Indus Valley, advanced urban planning, sanitation systems, and standardized measurements suggest access to knowledge far beyond what surviving humans could have discovered independently. The Forbidden Tables hint that Watcher influence was present here as well, guiding engineers and city planners who preserved techniques encoded by the pre-flood rebels. Knowledge was transmitted selectively, ensuring stability, efficiency, and alignment with cosmic principles. You are observing a pattern: wherever civilization flourished, the fingerprints of the Watchers can be found. Mesoamerica, too, bears traces of Watcher influence. Pyramid structures, calendars, and astronomical observatories suggest a lineage of knowledge that predates commonly accepted history. The Forbidden Tables imply that certain families in these regions were custodians of hidden wisdom, tasked with preserving pre-flood techniques and spiritual understanding. These societies often combined governance, religion, and science in ways that mirrored the Anunnaki model of order, reflecting the enduring legacy of the Watchers. The Forbidden Tables emphasize the role of secret societies and priesthoods in maintaining this hidden knowledge. Knowledge was carefully encoded in ritual, symbol, and oral tradition, ensuring it could be preserved without endangering society. Priests acted as custodians, selectively sharing insights with kings and leaders, while ordinary citizens remained unaware. These networks maintained the rebellion's legacy, keeping forbidden knowledge alive for millennia. You are learning that secrecy was a tool, not merely for power, but for survival. The legacy of the Watchers also influenced technology and medicine. Advances in metallurgy, irrigation, architecture, and herbal medicine often emerge suddenly, far ahead of what conventional history attributes to humans. The Forbidden Tables suggest that these breakthroughs were direct inheritances from pre-flood knowledge, transmitted through secret channels. Humans guided by Watchers' teachings became innovators, shaping civilizations with wisdom deliberately preserved from the age before the flood. Genetics remained a hidden concern. Bloodlines aligned with the Watchers were deliberately preserved, ensuring continuity of traits, intelligence, longevity, spiritual sensitivity that could facilitate the retention of forbidden knowledge. The Forbidden Tables describe how marriages, alliances, and dynasties were orchestrated to maintain these lineages. Royal families and priestly dynasties were not random, they were carefully designed to preserve both genes and knowledge. You are seeing a deliberate weaving of heredity and intellect across millennia. The Forbidden Tables also reveal the Watchers' indirect supervision. Though many were punished or exiled, their influence persisted through humans trained in secret arts. This supervision was subtle, encoded messages, celestial guidance, and symbolic instruction directed human development without revealing the full truth. Civilizations thrived under this quiet guidance, advancing in science, art, and governance while the Watchers' rebellion remained hidden in history. You are observing a careful balance between control, freedom, and secret mentoring. The influence of the Watchers created global cultural parallels. Similar myths, structures, and knowledge appear independently across continents: pyramids, ziggurats, sacred geometry, astronomical alignments, and ritual symbolism. The Forbidden Tables suggest a single source: humans guided by Watchers' descendants, preserving knowledge of pre-flood civilizations. These similarities are not coincidences, they are evidence of a deliberate, hidden transmission of wisdom. You are beginning to understand why civilizations separated by oceans and continents share uncanny patterns. The Watchers' influence was not universally benevolent. Some humans misused the knowledge, wielding power for conquest, domination, or destruction. The Forbidden Tables warn that forbidden knowledge carries risk. Civilizations rose and fell as a result of misuse, with wars, political upheavals, and collapse reflecting the tension between knowledge and morality. The Watchers' legacy, though enduring, was always entwined with human free will, a gamble that shaped the course of history. In Mesopotamia, kingship combined spiritual authority with scientific knowledge. The Forbidden Tables reveal that rulers acted as intermediaries between humans and divine wisdom. They preserved records, conducted rituals, and maintained societal order using techniques taught by the Watchers. Governance was thus both political and cosmic, reflecting a system that predated the flood yet survived through careful guidance and bloodline management. You are seeing civilization as a deliberate project, not a natural accident. The hidden influence of the Watchers extended into religion and mysticism. Sacred rituals, encoded texts, and ceremonial practices preserved fragments of forbidden knowledge while concealing the full truth. Humans learned lessons through allegory, symbol, and myth, unaware that these practices were remnants of pre-flood wisdom. The Forbidden Tables indicate that religion, law, and science were intertwined, creating a stable society guided by knowledge only accessible to select custodians. You are learning that what appears as myth may be history encrypted in story. The post-flood era also saw the rise of great libraries and archives, some of which became centers of esoteric knowledge. Scribes, priests, and scholars acted as custodians, transmitting wisdom selectively. The Forbidden Tables suggest that some of these archives contain pre-flood texts, artifacts, and instructions from the Watchers themselves. Access was tightly controlled, often restricted to elites or secret orders, ensuring that forbidden knowledge survived without widespread misuse. You are witnessing a deliberate preservation strategy across generations. The Forbidden Tables further describe cross-continental alliances. Rulers and priesthoods maintained connections through bloodlines, marriage, and trade. These alliances ensured that Watcher-guided knowledge was not lost and that innovations could be shared strategically. Civilization was no longer isolated, it became a global network subtly guided by the survivors of rebellion. You are beginning to understand the hidden architecture of post-flood human society, orchestrated by custodians of forbidden wisdom. Despite millennia of concealment, fragments of Watcher knowledge resurfaced repeatedly. Astronomical charts, advanced architecture, metallurgy, and medicine appear suddenly in the archaeological record. According to the Forbidden Tables, these resurgences were deliberate, facilitated by human descendants of the Watchers. Knowledge was encoded to survive catastrophe, misinterpretation, and censorship. You are seeing evidence of a hidden continuity, a bridge between pre-flood rebellion and modern civilization. Finally, the Forbidden Tables suggest that the influence of the Watchers continues even into modern times. Secret societies, religious hierarchies, and elite bloodlines may trace origins back to post-flood custodians of pre-flood wisdom. Rituals, symbols, and hidden knowledge persist as subtle guidance for human development. You are learning that the rebellion and its legacy have never truly ended, they have merely adapted, hidden in plain sight. The next part of this documentary will examine ancient technology, sacred artifacts, and monuments that encode Watcher wisdom, showing how pre-flood knowledge influenced science, religion, and architecture across civilizations. You will discover the hidden legacy of the Watchers etched into stone, metal, and memory. The story of the post-flood world reveals a sobering truth: civilization is not merely the product of human effort, it is the continuation of a hidden legacy, guided by rebels, preserved in secrecy, and encoded for survival. Humanity inherited wisdom, knowledge, and genetic traits deliberately safeguarded by those who defied heaven itself. Ancient technology and the monuments of forbidden knowledge. You have witnessed rebellion, survival, and the hidden influence of the Watchers, yet their legacy reaches far beyond bloodlines and rituals. It is etched into stone, metal, and architecture, a hidden record of forbidden knowledge that persists across continents and millennia. The Forbidden Tables describe monuments and artifacts not merely as symbols of power, but as encoded repositories of advanced technology, science, and divine instruction. The first evidence appears in Mesopotamia. Ziggurats, the towering step temples, were not only religious centers but also astronomical observatories and repositories of knowledge. The Forbidden Tables reveal that the Watchers guided humans in their design. Each level, chamber, and orientation encoded lessons in mathematics, celestial alignment, and ritual lore. You are discovering that these structures were practical and sacred, simultaneously temples, laboratories, and schools of forbidden science. The pyramids of Egypt are perhaps the most famous examples of Watcher influence. According to the Forbidden Tables, they were built using techniques lost to time, taught by Watchers to carefully selected human engineers. These techniques included precise measurement systems, the manipulation of massive stones, and alignment with celestial bodies, knowledge that could not have been acquired through ordinary trial and error. The monuments encode astronomical cycles, sacred geometry, and advanced mathematics in ways that continue to baffle modern researchers. You are seeing a physical record of rebellion, preserved in stone. The Forbidden Tables also describe hidden artifacts and devices with purposes beyond our understanding. Some were tools of energy manipulation, capable of generating heat, light, or motion without conventional fuel. Others were used to record information in materials impervious to decay, a metal, crystal, and treated stone. The Watchers taught humans to create these artifacts to preserve knowledge across catastrophe. Even after the flood and millennia of human ignorance, fragments of these devices survived, awaiting rediscovery. You are learning that technology in the ancient world was far more advanced than commonly acknowledged. Globally, structures reveal a shared architectural language. From the step pyramids of Mesoamerica to the ziggurats of Sumer, from Stonehenge to the Great Pyramids, the Forbidden Tables suggest a single guiding influence: humans trained and inspired by the Watchers. These monuments encode cycles of the moon, sun, and planets, seasonal calendars, and measurements of the Earth itself. They serve as both functional and ritual tools, linking human activity to cosmic order. You are beginning to understand that these are not isolated achievements, but a coherent system of knowledge preserved by rebellion. The Forbidden Tables emphasize the importance of sacred geometry and encoded numerology. Each monument, altar, and artifact contained deliberate ratios, angles, and dimensions designed to convey cosmic knowledge. The Watchers ensured that humans could access this wisdom safely, encoding it in layers, ritual, architecture, and symbol, so that only those initiated in the hidden arts could fully interpret it. You are discovering a system in which architecture becomes a library of divine knowledge, accessible across generations. Metallurgy and craftsmanship were also influenced by the Watchers. The Forbidden Tables describe advanced alloys, tools, and techniques lost to human history. Weapons, ceremonial objects, and utilitarian instruments were made with precision, combining hardness, resilience, and conductive properties that rival modern science. Some artifacts demonstrate knowledge of atomic structures, energy conduction, and resonance. You are learning that the past contained technologies intentionally hidden, preserved in fragments by humans loyal to Watcher teachings. The Forbidden Tables highlight the role of symbolic encoding. Knowledge was deliberately hidden in myths, carvings, inscriptions, and ritual practices. Celestial cycles were embedded in star charts, calendars, and sacred monuments. Chemical formulas were concealed in ceremonial recipes. Instructions for construction, medicine, and governance were encoded in storytelling, allegory, and song. This ensured survival while preventing misuse. You are witnessing a civilization in which knowledge was both sacred and strategic. Certain sites were specifically designated as repositories of forbidden knowledge. Hidden chambers, subterranean libraries, and vaults were constructed to preserve the Watcher's teachings. These locations often became pilgrimage sites, later myths, or centers of religious authority. The Forbidden Tables describe how custodians maintained these vaults in secrecy, passing information from one generation to the next. You are beginning to understand that hidden archives are not anomalies, they are deliberate preservation strategies. Artifacts themselves sometimes contained encoded energy patterns. Some tablets, stones, and metal instruments were inscribed with geometries that, when activated, could manipulate physical or environmental phenomena. The Watchers instructed humans in their use, but only select initiates could wield them safely. Many of these devices were hidden after the flood, intentionally scattered to prevent misuse. You are learning that the ancients may have harnessed forces we are only beginning to understand. The Forbidden Tables describe ancient astronomy and planetary observation in astonishing detail. Humans trained by the Watchers charted stars, planets, and celestial cycles with extreme precision. Observatories were built in alignment with solstices, equinoxes, and planetary conjunctions. This knowledge was not theoretical, it was practical, used to guide agriculture, ritual timing, and governance. You are discovering that celestial knowledge was a gift of rebellion, preserved secretly across generations. The role of hybrid descendants in these projects was pivotal. Post-flood humans with Watcher lineage often became master architects, engineers, and ritual leaders. Their understanding of geometry, physics, and spiritual principle allowed them to integrate technology with architecture and ceremony. The Forbidden Tables suggest that these hybrids carried both the memory of pre-flood rebellion and practical knowledge, ensuring continuity of forbidden wisdom. You are seeing a society rebuilt with the guidance of select humans carrying divine legacy. The Forbidden Tables also hint at catastrophic misuse of technology in the past. Some devices, when misapplied, cause destruction, environmental disruption, or death. This reinforces a recurring theme: forbidden knowledge is dangerous without guidance. The Watcher's rebellion was a gamble, empowering humans while ensuring safeguards. Even as civilizations rebuilt, some lessons were embedded in ritual and allegory precisely to prevent misuse. You are learning that secrecy was survival, not mere control. The Watcher's influence persisted in ritual, religion, and governance. Kingship, priesthood, and social hierarchy were often structured to preserve access to forbidden knowledge. Rituals encoded mathematics, astronomy, and metallurgy in symbolic form. Sacred objects carried both spiritual and technological significance. You are discovering that post-flood civilizations were not merely recovering, they were strategically guided by preserved wisdom. Even today, the traces of Watcher-influenced technology and monuments remain. Pyramids, ziggurats, observatories, and hidden artifacts carry encoded lessons, awaiting rediscovery. The Forbidden Tables suggest that understanding these structures could unlock forgotten techniques, advance science, and spiritual wisdom. You are learning that the past was deliberately preserved, hidden in plain sight, challenging conventional timelines of human advancement. Finally, the Forbidden Tables hint at a global network of hidden knowledge, spanning continents and millennia. Artifacts, monuments, and encoded myths were part of a deliberate system designed to ensure survival and transmission. Human civilization, according to the tables, is not a linear evolution but a carefully managed inheritance of rebellion, guidance, and preservation. You are seeing that technology, spirituality, and governance are all threads woven from the legacy of the Watchers, defying the passage of time and deliberate erasure. The next part of this documentary will conclude the story by exploring modern implications, hidden legacies, and the mysteries that remain, connecting ancient rebellion, forbidden knowledge, and lost history to today's world. You will see how the Forbidden Tables suggest that the Anunnaki's influence, the Watchers' rebellion, and hidden technology continue to shape human destiny in ways most people never suspect. The monuments, artifacts, and encoded knowledge are not merely relics, they are a warning, a guide, and a testament to a rebellion that altered the course of human history. Humanity inherited both the potential and the peril of forbidden knowledge, preserved by rebels who dared to defy the gods. Modern implications and the hidden legacy of the Watchers. You have followed the story from rebellion to survival, from forbidden knowledge to post-flood civilizations. Now, in the final chapter, you are about to see how the legacy of the Watchers, encoded in bloodlines, artifacts, and knowledge, continues to resonate in the modern world. The Forbidden Tables suggest that the rebellion of the Watchers was not merely a pre-flood phenomenon, it is a living influence, shaping human society, technology, and consciousness to this very day. The first revelation is that bloodlines aligned with the Watchers persist. According to the Forbidden Tables, many of the world's ruling families, religious dynasties, and influential elites are descendants of post-flood humans trained by the Watchers. These lineages inherited both genetic traits, intelligence, intuition, and longevity, and fragments of forbidden knowledge. You are discovering that power, influence, and the preservation of knowledge are not accidental, they are part of a deliberate continuum stretching back thousands of years. The modern obsession with ancient monuments and sacred sites is not coincidental. Pyramids, ziggurats, and megalithic structures continue to attract attention, exploration, and speculation because they are encoded repositories of advanced knowledge. According to the Forbidden Tables, these sites contain hidden geometries, energetic alignments, and encoded messages left by the Watchers. Researchers, scientists, and mystics who study these sites may, knowingly or unknowingly, be accessing fragments of a hidden curriculum designed to guide humanity across ages. You are learning that the past is not buried, it is waiting to be understood. The Forbidden Tables also suggest that modern science, technology, and secret research programs may unknowingly echo the teachings of the Watchers. Breakthroughs in genetics, energy manipulation, astronomy, and materials science resemble knowledge described in pre-flood texts. According to the tables, some technologies, like energy harnessing, communication systems, and even methods for manipulating life, were recorded and preserved by the Watchers. You are discovering that modern innovation may be less new than commonly believed, it may be a rediscovery of forbidden principles encoded in human civilization for millennia. Hidden knowledge is often transmitted through secret societies, esoteric orders, and mystical traditions. The Forbidden Tables emphasize that these networks were intentionally created to preserve the legacy of the Watchers while preventing misuse. Freemasonry, alchemical guilds, religious orders, and even elite academic institutions may trace their organizational and philosophical roots to post-flood custodians of forbidden knowledge. You are seeing that what is often dismissed as superstition or ritual may actually be a deliberate method of knowledge preservation. The legacy of the Watchers is also visible in art, symbolism, and ritual. Ancient iconography, allegorical texts, and sacred geometries are repeated in modern symbols and architecture. The Forbidden Tables imply that these motifs serve as mnemonic devices, encoded instructions, or keys to understanding hidden principles. Across continents and cultures, you can see a continuity of symbol, knowledge, and influence that defies conventional history. You are witnessing a hidden curriculum spanning millennia. Modern conspiracy theories about advanced technologies, hidden artifacts, and secret knowledge are, in fact, fragments of a larger, encoded narrative described in the Forbidden Tables. These ideas, ranging from energy devices and lost cities to extraterrestrial influence, reflect the same themes preserved by the Watchers and their human descendants. According to the texts, humanity has always been on the cusp of rediscovering these teachings, but widespread misuse or misunderstanding has always been a risk. You are learning that curiosity, courage, and ethical responsibility are central to safely unlocking hidden wisdom. The Forbidden Tables also emphasize that genetic legacies continue to matter. Certain individuals may carry inherited traits from Watcher-aligned bloodlines, including intuition, creativity, memory, and resilience. These traits may explain why some families or individuals are disproportionately influential in science, spirituality, or leadership. You are discovering that heritage is not merely social or cultural, it is biological, spiritual, and encoded across generations. The persistence of ancient architecture and technology in the modern world is also significant. Some constructions are aligned with the Earth's magnetic and energetic fields, reflecting principles that may have been taught by the Watchers. Power grids, resonant frequencies, and geomantic design could, intentionally or accidentally, echo these principles. According to the Forbidden Tables, understanding these alignments may unlock hidden efficiencies, energy sources, or spiritual insights that have remained dormant for millennia. You are seeing that ancient knowledge was practical as well as symbolic. The Forbidden Tables reveal a final, chilling truth: the struggle between secrecy and revelation continues. Humanity has always oscillated between preserving forbidden knowledge and attempting to exploit it. Wars, political control, religious enforcement, and scientific exploration all reflect this tension. According to the tables, this balance is intentional. The Watchers' rebellion demonstrated that knowledge without responsibility can be dangerous, yet wisdom must survive for humanity to advance. You are witnessing a pattern in which secrecy ensures survival while revelation fuels evolution. Certain artifacts, hidden archives, and encoded texts remain undiscovered or misinterpreted, awaiting those who can decipher them responsibly. The Forbidden Tables hint that modern discoveries, whether in remote archaeological sites, ancient manuscripts, or encoded cultural symbols, may be fragments of pre-flood knowledge preserved by the Watchers. These fragments are scattered deliberately, ensuring that humanity can access them only when ethical maturity and technical understanding are sufficient. You are learning that history is not linear, it is layered, encrypted, and waiting for rediscovery. The legacy of the Watchers also informs modern spirituality and consciousness. Many mystical practices, meditation techniques, and esoteric teachings trace back to post-flood custodians of forbidden knowledge. These methods often mirror pre-flood principles, including alignment with cosmic cycles, understanding of natural law, and cultivation of mental and spiritual faculties. The Forbidden Tables suggest that these teachings survive not as superstition but as practical tools for human evolution. You are discovering that the rebellion of the Watchers continues to guide humanity in subtle but profound ways. Even contemporary governments and elite organizations may be influenced by hidden lineages and preserved knowledge. The Forbidden Tables imply that political, technological, and economic strategies are often informed, knowingly or unconsciously, by ancient principles preserved from pre-flood rebellion. You are learning that what appears as human ingenuity may, in some cases, be a rediscovery of lessons learned thousands of years ago. The Watchers' influence persists, encoded in the very fabric of civilization. The Forbidden Tables caution against arrogance. Knowledge without understanding remains dangerous. History demonstrates repeated cycles of rise, misuse, and collapse when forbidden knowledge is exploited irresponsibly. The Watchers' rebellion itself was an act of both courage and peril. Their legacy survives because it was carefully encoded, selectively transmitted, and ethically constrained. You are seeing that the survival of wisdom depends on moral responsibility as much as intellectual capacity. Ultimately, the Forbidden Tables suggest a profound truth: humanity is not merely an accident of evolution but a deliberately guided experiment. The Watchers' rebellion ensured the survival of knowledge, wisdom, and potential, while the flood and subsequent events reset civilization to prevent catastrophic misuse. Bloodlines, monuments, artifacts, and encoded teachings all testify to a hidden history, one that challenges our understanding of who we are and how we came to inherit the Earth. You are learning that the past is alive, hidden yet present, encoded in monuments, genetics, and institutions. The rebellion of the Watchers demonstrates that knowledge is both power and responsibility, and that humanity's destiny has always been intertwined with choices, ethics, and the courage to seek wisdom. The Forbidden Tables are not merely records, they are a warning, a guide, and an invitation to reclaim what was deliberately obscured. As we conclude this journey, one final question remains: what will humanity do with this knowledge now? The Forbidden Table suggests that rediscovery is possible, but only if curiosity is tempered by responsibility, and only if the mistakes of the past are not repeated. The legacy of the Watchers challenges you to consider your place in a continuum stretching back millennia, a lineage of knowledge, rebellion, survival, and guidance. The Forbidden Tables, etched in stone, encoded in symbols, and preserved across bloodlines, remain a testament to the Watchers' courage, the peril of forbidden knowledge, and the enduring potential of humanity. You have witnessed history deliberately hidden, secrets preserved through catastrophe, and wisdom transmitted across generations. Now it is up to us to recognize, respect, and wisely steward the legacy of the Watchers, ensuring that humanity does not repeat the mistakes that nearly destroyed it before. The rebellion is not merely history, it is a call. The knowledge survives. The bloodlines endure. The legacy continues. And you, now aware, are part of that continuum. The Forbidden Tables remind us humanity was never meant to be passive. We were meant to inherit, to learn, and to rise responsibly.